Homish and Rashi, the Torah portion, Vayechi, and he lived. Yaakov lived the last 17 years in the land of Egypt, and now he is on his deathbed giving blessings to his children, the 12 tribes. Rashi, the Torah portion.
Amen.
Chaim, Chaim. Okay, let's continue with the blessings. We are in chapter 49 in the book of Bereshit, Genesis, chapter 19, God. God, Gedud Yigadanenu, V'hu Yagud Akin. God, a troop will troop forth from God. We'll march forth, we'll troop forth. V'hu Yagud Akin. And he will troop back on his tracks, on his heel. Akiv means heel, like from the word Yaakov, which means heel. Verse number 19 in Rashi. God Gedud Yigadenu. A troop will troop forth from God. Kulam Lashon Gedud. They're all a form of the same word troop. Kachibru Menachem. So did Menachem explain it. And if you will make an objection and say, Ein Gedud Lashon Shnei Dalsin, that there's no form of the word Gedud, troop, without two dalids. Right, and the first God is with only one dalid. And as Gedud, in Hebrew, by the way, in the Israeli army, the Gedud is a infantry division, or it's a division in the infantry. Right, this is where it comes from. It's a troop. So if you will say that you need two dalids, yesh lemer, we can say Gedud shem davar. The Gedud is a noun. Therefore, tzrichim shnei dalsin. So therefore, it requires the two dalids. So is the way of the word, a word that's two letters. To repeat at the end of the word. But the root of the word is only two letters. And similarly, it says, a bird is roaming, lanud, which only has one dalid. And Savati Nedudim. It's from the same word as Nedudim with two dalids. Then I have my fill of wanderings. Nedudim mean wanderings. Shadud. Okay, it's a big excuse me. So he's saying they're all from one root. When it speaks in third person form of future, in a kofel, it's not repeated. Yagud, Yanud, Yarum, Yashuv. I mean, he's just bringing proof that you don't have to double up on the dalid. The other forms of words also in a similar manner. Misbah, when it takes the form of reflexive verb, kofel, then it becomes repeated. When he's guided, he's Reimam, he's Balel. It's just giving different examples. Okay, we're gonna continue. V'hu yagud akin, and he will troop back on his tracks, on his heels. Kol gedud, all troops, yeshuva al kevam, they return on their tracks, lanachalosim, to their possessions, shelot chu me'evar yarden, that they took on the other side of the Jordan. V'lo yipakim mehem ish, and not a man among them will be counted missing. Now, it's not that they're retreating in defeat, but on the contrary, that they're going back because they took on the other side of the Jordan, right? Let in. They took on the other side of the Jordan territory, if you recall. So this is speaking about them tracking back to the other side of the Jordan. That's what it means to track back. That's what Rashi's saying. And that no one will be missing in the battle that they partook. Akev, heel, tracks, bidarkam b'mesila shaholchu, on the way, the route that they went. Yeshuva, they shall return. Kamoy mikvaysecha loy nodu, that your tracks will not be discernible. Hein beikfei hatzain, these are the tracks of the flock. In Old French, traces. Okay. Verse 20. So that's God. Me Asher, from Asher, right? Shmeina lachmai, his bread is rich, is fat. Shmeina means fat, means rich. V'hu yitain, and he will give, provide, madane melech, madane means delicacies, for the king. Rashi, 20. Now, Asher Shmeina lachmai, that his bread is fat, is rich. Michael food, haba mechelkai shel Asher, the produce that's going to come from the portion of Asher, Yeshamin, will be very rich. She has Asim merubim, because there's going to be a lot of olives in there, the chelkai in his portion. Shemen, and he draws forth oil, kemayin, like a spring. Similarly, Moshe blessed Asher, the table b'shemen raglai, and he dips his feet in oil. That he's so rich with oil. As we learned in the tractate Menachos, once the people of Laodicea needed oil, and they appointed a non-Jew emissary and said to him, go bring us 1,000,000 manna, approximately 140,000 gallons of oil, olive oil. They went to Jerusalem. And so they went to the whole story to Asher, and they got, yeah. Okay. Why does he bring that story? Not clear.
How did you say the word rich in Hebrew?
Shaman,
Sham.
like from the word shemen, which means oil, right? You see, guess who's rich? Those who have oil. Here speaking olive oil, right? Naphtali, next is Naphtali. Ayala is Naphtali is a deer. Right? Shlucha, that is sent. Hanoisin Imre Shofer, who's sent to deliver beautiful sayings. Imre means say, like from the word amar, to say. Shofer means beautiful. Rashi, 21. What does it mean? Ayala, a deer who is sent off. Shlucha. Zu, because Genosar. This is in the valley of Genosar, which is in their portion. She kala levasha pedrisel, which is quick to ripen its fruits. Hayala, like a deer, shu kala leru, it's quick to run. Ayala shlucha, ayala mishalachas laruz. That means the deer that's sent off to run. So they're also in an area where I guess it's a very nurturing area for ripening of fruits. Nice and Imre Shefer, who delivers beautiful sayings, should be on the Sukkah Targuma according to Unkeles, which means his portion will yield fruit, and they will give thanks and blessing over them. Yeah, they'll have great blessings, and they're going to give thanks. That's what their beautiful words are. Davar Acher, alternative explanation. Al Melchemet Sisra Niznabe. Yaakov is prophesying over the war against Sisra, which he said, "V'lekachta imcha aseres alofim ish mibnei Naphtali," and you shall take 10,000 men from the sons of Naphtali. V'holchu sham b'zizus, and they went there with alacrity, swiftly. Shiluach, there it also uses the term to send off. Ve'emek shaluch beraglav, he sent off in the valley of his feet. Okay, I'm not certain what the valley of the feet over here, what that is. So it's speaking about the battle against Israel, that they quickly, the 10,000 sons of Naphtali acted with alacrity, with swiftness. Okay. Next. Hanaisin Imrei Shafer, who delivers beautiful sayings, Al Yadam, because of them, the men of the tribe of Naphtali mentioned in the previous comments, Sharu Devara Ubarak Shira. Devara and Barak sang a song of praise to God. They were from the tribe of Naphtali, I guess. And they sang, so it's referring to Devorah singing a praise to God in the book of Judges. Rabbi Zainu Darshu, our sages interpret the verse differently. Al Yoim Kfuras Yaakov, is speaking about the day that Yaakov, his burial. Esav Alamayra, Esav would lay claim over the cave, that it's his, as it says in the tractate of Soita. Aha. So what it means is Yaakov didn't have his written claim to the cave of the Machpelah. So Naphtali, who were quick like a deer, they went back to Egypt to bring the proof, the written proof, the documentation, in other words, that the cave of the Machpelah belongs to Yaakov and not to Esav. That's what our sages are referring to. The Targuma is Ramme Adve, and Unkeles, he translates it to mean Yipol Chevloi, his lot will fall, V'hu Yoide al Chelka, and he will give thanks of his portion. Amarim Naim V'Shevach, on beautiful sayings and praise.
Can you scroll up, Rabbi?
Oh, okay. Thank you. Giving praise over the good land. Okay. 22. Now we go to Yosef. In verse 22. Then Pairas Yosef, a son of grace, is Yosef. Ben Pairas, a son of grace. Aleayin, who graces the eye. Benoitz Tzada Ale Shor. and Banois, the daughters, they stepped up to gaze. Rashi in 22. Ben Poiras, Ben Chain, a son of grace. Hu Lashon Rami, it's an Aramaic term. Apirion Namtie Rabbi Shimon. Let's extend our grace to Rabbi Shimon, Messiah. Right, this is a new term. So it means grace. Ben Pedros Ali Ayin, a son of grace to the eye. Chinoi Notui. His grace is spread out al ha'ayin araya oisa over the eye that sees him.
So does this grace here have the same connotation as kind?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's exactly how it translates it, right? Ben Chain, right? He's translating exactly that way. Yep. B'nai saw the Ale shore. The girls stepped up to gaze. B'nai Mitzrayim, the girls of Egypt, Hayu Tzeidas al Hachema, they would step along the wall, the stackle b'yafyai, to gaze at Yosef's beauty. B'nai Harbe, many girls, Tzada kol achas v'achas, everyone who stepped b'mokam to the place, shetuchal lirais misham, that they were able to see from there. Wow. Davar acher. Alternative explanation, what does this mean? Ale shur, al riyasai, overseeing him, kamayashivren v'loy karev. We have the term ashurenu, so it's same idea as shur over here, ale shur, that I shall look at him but not near. So the first explanation is that they're stepping on the wall to each one in their place that they could see. Right, because it says that plural banois, daughters, and it says, but then tzada is singular, so it means that many girls stepped individually. I guess it was like, like an individual kind of lookout place. So each one got their gaze at Yosef. The Midrash Haggadah Yesh Rabim and the Haggadah Midrash has many explanations what this means. But this interpretation is more of the simple meaning of the text. Okay, next, Peiras. Tav Sheboy, the Taf in the letter, who Tikkun Alashon, it's an enhancement to the term. Kamai Dibas B'nei Adam, over the speaking over the matter of the people. Okay. Sure. To gaze. Kamai loshur, with the prefix loshur, ale shur, in order to gaze. Bishvil loshur, in order to be able to gaze. And Onkeles translates it. Train shifting yivkon mibinayo kula. 2 tribes shall come forth from his sons. Kasa benais. Verse says daughters, here referring to the tribes, Al Shem benais Menashe, the daughters of Menashe. Benais Slavchad, which is a descendant from Menashe, is the daughters of Slavchad who wanted to have a share in the land of Israel, which we'll learn later on. They took a portion of land, on both sides of the Jordan. So according to Onkeles, it's making a reference to later on the daughters of Tzlofchad who come from the tribe of Menashe. Okay, I don't know exactly how he gets that from those words. And Onkelos, he translates Ben Peiras Yosef, a son of Chain, of Grace. Buried the Yiske Yosef. A populous son is Yosef. Peiras Lashon period Rivia, that the word Peiras comes from the word fruitful and multiply. That's how Onkelos learns it. He learns it differently, right? Where Rashi's learning it meaning that it's grace, and the Onkelos is learning it that means fruitful and multiply. By the way, that's what Sfardim, if you know Sfardim, Ben Porat Yotev, Ben Porat Yosef, Ben Porat Yosef, they give always a blessing, right? I mean, be fruitful and multiply, be fruitful and multiply. It's based on Onkelos, the way he understands it, right? Not the way Rashi's understanding it. Yeah, that term is a very Sephardic term. Yeah. Yesh midrash agada, boy, and there are agadic explanations. That means yashim al lashon that do fit with the wording of the simple meaning. Bishah Shabbat Esav Likras Yaakov. Second. At the time that Esav came towards Yaakov, Bikulan, in the case of all the members of the Yaakov's family, Kadma, Imois, the mothers went first, if you recall, Lelechas Lifnei B'neihem, to go ahead of their sons, Lishtachvos, in order to bow down before Esav. Barachel, it says, Nikash Esav Barachel, Lishachv, that Yosef went first, right? Implying that Yosef preceded Rachel. Yosef said to himself, Rasha, this evil one, Esav, ain't a Rama, he's an arrogant and feels that he deserves everything. Maybe he's going to set his eyes on my mother. So Yosef went ahead of him, of Rachel, and he stretched his height in order to cover her. Right? He didn't bend over, he stretched himself so that she should be covered, that he shouldn't see her. Even this is why his father blessed him, Ben Peiras, a growing. So here, Ben Peiras means a growing son. Another explanation. Yosef, you enlarge yourself, Yosef, Aliayin Shel Esav, over the eye of Esav. That's why you were worthy for greatness. When I saw the Balei Shor, that the girl stepped up to gaze, meaning to look at you, when you would go out to rule over Egypt. In other words, not only did you got greatness, but people appreciate, they came to look at your greatness. Why? Because you protected your mother, right? When Esav came to Yaakov. Got that? Pretty powerful.
He shielded her.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, but Aydashu, and there's a further expounding. The Inin Shalot Yishlad Vizara Ayin Hara. This is also that the evil eye should not affect his offspring. As Yaakov, when he blessed Ephraim and Menashe, he blessed him like fish. If you remember, they were already blessed, right? Menashe and Ephraim were already blessed at the beginning of the parsha, right? They were blessed, what? That they should be like fish, that fish no one sees or under the sea. So, and they're fruitful and multiply. So likewise, that no one, no ayin hara, no evil eye, because fish are hidden, should affect them. So he Ben Parat Yosef is also referring to the evil eye, right? That's also, Moroccan women are very big in using that term. Ben Parat Yosef also to be protected from the evil eye. Okay. Okay, let's truck over here. The Maruhu, and they embittered him, Roibu, and they antagonized him, the Istimuhu, Balichitzim, and they hated Istimuhu. They hated him, the masters of arrows. Rashi in 23. They embittered him and they became antagonistic. His brothers made him bitter. And his wife made him bitter. Lost to imprison him. And embittering their lives. This means Nasu loy echav anshe riv, that his brothers became antagonistic. Ve'ein loshen hazeh loshen palo. This is not a form of they acted. In other words, it's not an active verb. She'im kain, because if so, haya loy lenaked ravu, it'll be vowelized differently. Some. Okay. Well, we just have here some grammar again. Okay, that's Balech Hitzim. The next Rashi. Masters of arrows. Shalashenim kechetz. Their tongues were like arrows. Yitargumai. Mare palaguksta. And Onkelos says parties to division. Lashon b'tiyam amechse. Oisam shayu ruyim nachla kima nachla. Those who would divide the heritage with Yosef, his brothers. Okay, next, 24. But Teshev be'esan, he was placed in strength, kashtoi. He placed with strength, kashtoi, his bow, the afoizu zraya yadav, and his arms were it says bedecked. 24. We're 24. Yeah, I said we did that in the Rashi. Yeah. So he has a bow that's firmly in place, and his arms were gilded. Midei Avir Yaakov Misham, from the hands of the mighty power of Yaakov. Midei, so from his hands, Avir is mighty Yaakov Misham, from there. Raya Eben Israel, a shepherd of the stone of Israel. Let's see, Rashi, the Tesha Beis and Kashte, Nisyasha B'Chizek. His bow was firmly emplaced. Kashte, bow, means chazko, his strength. So his strength was firmly in place. And his arms were gilded. He Nesinas Habas is the putting of the ring al Yadai on Yosef's hand. Lashon Zahav Mufaz, a gleaming gold. So this came about to him, Midei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, from the hands of God. Shu Avir Yaakov, because he's the mighty powerful Yaakov. Misham Allah, and from there he rose, Evan Israel, to become a shepherd of the stone of Israel, Yikran Shel Israel, the essence of Israel, Evan HaRaisha. It's an expression, Evan Israel is an expression of a headstone. Lashon Malchus, which means royalty. So, yeah, he was royalty. In other words, I guess royalty in Egypt, if that's what he's referring to, I'm not certain, because that's where he got the ring, right, from Pharaoh. The Onkelos Avukach Tirgim. Onkelos also translates this way. Vateshev his prophecy came back at his brothers, that is, the dreams that he dreamt about them. So because he kept the Torah secretly, Tosefis is an addition, not the translation of the Hebrew. The Shavi Betukva Reichatzne. He put his reliance upon the Mighty One. His translation is Be'esan Kashtai. Ivri. So the way Onkelos is translating over here is that he had strength, he had power, he had royalty, because he put his strength with God. The mighty power of Yaakov. That's what it means, the mighty power of Yaakov, right? That Yosef put that his power, it was not his power, but the power of God. That's how Onkelos is explaining. Okay. Even Israel, stone of Israel, Lashon Noitrikai. There's an abbreviation form. Av Uben. The word Evan is stone. The first two letters is Av, father, and the last two letters is Ben, son. So Avam, father and son, Yaakov Abanov, Yaakov and his sons. That's how Onkelos explains those words, that word rather. Our sages, however, they understand that his bow was firmly in place, al kvishas yitzroi, suppressing his any urge that he had, be'eshes adeinav, in the incident of the master of his wife, right, the wife of Potiphar, the kaira keshes, and it's called a bow. Al shem she'azer ziyara kechetz, a seaman shoots like an arrow. The Yafaizu Zeraya Yadav, and his arms were gilded. Kama Yafutsai, they were dispersed. Yatsa Azera, the semen would go out. Mi Ben, its boys, Yadav between the fingers. And now this is suppress any desire that that he had for her. He suppressed it by with his fingers, placing them into the ground, I guess. So this is how the sages explain. Midei Avir Yaakov, and the hands of the mighty power of Yaakov. What does that mean? The image he saw, right, in the story with Potiphar, with the wife of Potiphar, he saw the image of his father come to him, and that's what gave him strength. That's what it means. So, according to the sages, this is referring to the time that she seduced him and how he had the strength to overcome. He with his arms, he just like physically held himself back. And then in his mind, he had the image of his father come to him to give him strength. Okay, 25. Mikael Avicha V'Yazreka, from God of your father, V'Yazreka, and he will help you. The Shakai, and the Almighty, Yivarechecha Birchas Shamayim, he will bless you heavenly blessings. Mi'al, from above, Birchas Tahoim, from above, blessings from the deeps. Roivetzes Tachas, and it's crouching deep down below. Birchas Shaddai Beracham, a blessing of casting and womb. Okay, what's going on here? See Rashi 25. Hail Avicha, from the God of your father, Haisa L'chazais, did all of this come to you? Behu Yazreka, and he, God, will help you. Ke'eshakai, and the Almighty, Ima Kadosh Baruch Hu Haya, Ima Kadosh Baruch Hu Haya Libcham, if your heart was with God, Kishaloi Shemaita, when you did not listen, L'divrei Adonai Nascham, to the words of your master's wife, and he then blesses you. Because you didn't listen to the words of her words, a blessing of casting in womb, a blessing of father and mother, to say, may those who father and those who give birth be blessed. That the male should produce children. The drop that's fit for conception. And the cave is yishaklu as rechem shalahem, and the female should not be bereaved from the womb. In other words, to have a miscarriage. The happy boreim miscarry their fetus. Shadaim casting. Yara yara mitagam. Okay. Okay, let's go quickly. Last verse. Let's get it in. Birchas Havicha, the blessing of your fathers. Gavru became mightier, al birchas, over the blessings of Hoirai, of my parents. Atabas givas elam. So to the world's hills. Tiena l'reish Yosef, let it be upon the head of Yosef, l'kadkoi nazir echam, and upon the head of the withdrawn one of his brothers. Rashi 26. Birchas avicha gavru, the blessings of your fathers became mighty. Habrachas sheberchani HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the blessings that God gave to me, blessed me, Yaakov is right. Gavra v'holchu, become mighty. Ala brachas, beyond the blessings sheberachas ha'hayrai, that my parents were blessed. Now, as God is given, is giving more and more, right? So the blessings are more and more. Atavas givas elam, until the bounds of the world's hills. The fisha brachas shali, because my blessing Gavra became mighty. Ad seif gvuli givais elam, until the end of the boundaries of the hills of the world. I don't know what that means exactly, but I guess it's an expression. Shenasali bracha prutza, that was given an open-ended blessing. Bli meitzarim, without limits. Magas ad arbak tzeis ha'olam, reaching to the four extremities of the world. Shenemar, as it says, uparatze yama v'kedma. Now we had that you should spread westward, eastward, south, and north, right? In parts of Vayechi. Ma shelo yamar, which God did not say L'Avram Avinu to Avram, Yitzchak or to Isaac. Avram Amar to Avram, he said, raise your head, your eyes, and see northward. Because the entire land that you see, I'm giving it to you. And he only showed them the land of Israel. To Avram. Yitzchak Amar, to Yitzchak he said, to you and your offspring, I'm going to give all of these lands. And you will establish the oath to Avram, your father. This is what Isaiah said. Then I shall feed you the portion of Yaakov, your father. It does not say Nachlas Avram, the portion of Avraham, because it's a greater portion, the portion of Yaakov. Right? My parents, Lashon Heroyin, it's a term of conception. Sheheruni, they brought about my conception. B'me'imi, in my mother's womb. Ma'here gover, like a man brought about conception. Now, there's parents is the same word as conception, right? That's what parents do. They conceive, right? That's what makes them a parent. They conceive a child. Ad ta'avas, until the bounds, ad k'tzois, to the ends. Kamei, he's avisam lachem gvul kedma. You should draw the border for yourselves, the eastern border. Tisa'u lava chemas. So you should border to approach to Hamas. Ta'avas, bounds. In Old French, esomil. Maybe the Hebrew Menachem in Sorek. Onkelos, however, he learns these words, right? Doesn't mean approaching the border. He learns it as an expression of Lashon Taiva Bechemda. It's an expression of desire and longing. That the hills of our verse is related to pillars of the earth. Yeah. So it's an expression of longing, which is actually how I would have naturally thought also, because the word tavas means like a desire. Okay, tiena, let them be, kulam, all of them, l'reish Yosef, upon the head of Yosef, all these blessings. Nazir Echab, he's withdrawn one of his brothers, should be understood according to Onkelos' explanation. Pirsha la'achayhi, he's the isolated one of his brothers, shenivdal me'echab, for he was separated from his brothers. Kamai, Yinazir mikachei ben Israel, this is from the same word that he should withdraw from the holy, that which is holy of the children of Israel, and withdraw toward the rear. Okay, just bring out the idea that it means, didn't realize so late. All right, Tanya, coming up, righteous one.